really good. That was yesterday's show. We've got a big one for you today, so get ready.
I see my life as a series of journeys, emotional, physical, and metaphorical. Stress can kill, but anxiety is my close friend. Pride before the fall is always around the next bend. Sexual healing, real or placebo, you won't find liberation in my libido. Drive and think if you need to be sane. Finish with some confidence, but we started with the blame. So, I tried to work it all out. I wrote it all down, then I ripped it all up. My half-empty glass, my half-full cup. I'm clean as a whistle with my wash day blues. I put my bare foot in my dead skin shoe. I strolled around the grounds, not keeping off the grass. I got hounded by a fox and I cried until I laughed. All that life's about is existing and resisting. Delusions of grandeur, memories and dreams, depressive or aggressive, scorpion or bull. The glass is half empty and the cup's half full. This particular journey had been expected for some time and started on Sunday the 28th of February 2016. It was the same day that something named the EU project was headline news and was destined to be renamed Brexit. Artists went to war with Amish Kapoor over ownership of the blackest black paint known to mankind. And research blew the portrayal of sharks by stating that they are actually extremely sociable creatures with a circle of over 200 friends. I've always been an artist. I'm not a sculptor, I'm not a photographer. I'm not an illustrator and I'm not a poet. I'm not a performer, I'm not a writer, I'm not a painter. But I am whatever the project demands from me or whatever is available to me at the time. My practice has always been a response of some sort, usually emotional, and I've always used whatever media I need to speak, express, cry or shout. Because I'm mildly bipolar, I have always found myself out of time or sync with the world, and I've become finding it is and growing increasingly hard to communicate vocally. And when this happens, I become frustrated and confused, so I make myself a mind map. I regularly find myself tangled up in my ideas and reaching for my books, sketchpad or computer and researching whatever is bugging me until I find some form of an answer. The research may or may not evolve into a physical piece of work. It may be a half-baked idea sitting in the corner of my studio until my research drops a little clue and it finishes itself as if by magic. I don't make my art for money and I don't aim to please my audience. I make whatever it may be because it either appears out of nowhere or because it nags and nags and nags, keeping me awake at night like a hungry dog until I feed it or simply go mad. I knew I had to accept that Chris had died, but I still found myself making tea for two and hearing him talking to me in the moments between waking and sleeping. We hadn't believed he was dying, which is crazy because we'd been told he was terminally ill on several different occasions. And looking back over our photos and my poems, it's glaringly obvious that either we were both heavily in denial. Denial is one of the 5 stages of dying and mourning that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross writes about after studying the terminally ill and their families' experiences as they went through this journey. Her book, On Death and Dying, is now widely accepted as a seminal book in which she talks about the various stages of dying and mourning as denial, depression, anger, hope and acceptance. Most people have heard of them, and sadly they are something I have experienced personally. I realised I was experiencing the same phenomena as when lovers split up and the world is suddenly full of people in love. For me, instead of love, it was death, disability and cancer. I went to Tate Modern in 2016 and wandered in to see a retrospective show by Bipin Kakar called You Can't Please All. The show consisted of a series of uncompromising paintings depicting his sexuality and his struggle with cancer, and more poignantly, the side effects of his treatment. His series of starkly honest paintings reached deep inside me and held my stomach in an iron fist of emotions that come from watching a person you love die in so much discomfort and pain. He dealt with it in such an unflinching way, it felt that he had given me the permission I'd been unknowingly waiting for to make work about Chris. So, a year after Chris's death, I reached for my books. The Work of Mourning by Jacques Derrida immediately attracted my attention because I was struck by the title, which glaringly shouted work, which is exactly what mourning has been for me. What church, what hymns, how to act, what to wear, then working to understand, working to forgive, working to survive. I realised I was angry, really angry. Angry is one of the stages of mourning that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talks about, and this is what she has to say about it. Untreated fear turns into anger when we're not in touch with our fears or when we don't even know we're afraid. That fear grows into anger. If we don't deal with the anger, it will turn into rage. In the past, this project would have been a collaboration with my husband, but instead it is inspired by him and my recent life experiences. For 30 years we worked, lived, laughed and made art together, but since he died 2 years ago I have been struggling to find my identity and been clinging to my art as a means of survival. My first reaction was the opposite. I didn't want to survive. His death ended our lives together, our memories together and our working together. When he died, I died with him. I lost my partner in life, art, and along with him I lost my identity and our shared identities. Jacques Derrida describes this emotion so well when he is writing about the loss of his friend Louis Althusser that I felt I should read it to you. A long, rich and intense stretch of my living self has been interrupted today, comes to an end and thus dies with Louis, in order to accompany him as in the past, but this time without return and into the depths of absolute darkness. What is coming to an end, what Louis is taking with him, is not only something or other that we would have shared at some point or another, in one place or another, but the world itself, a certain origin. No doubt also that of the world itself in which I lived, in which we lived, a unique story. It is a story that is, in any case, irreplaceable. And it will have one meaning or another for the two of us, even if this meaning could have been the same and not even the same just for him. It is a world that is for us the whole world, the only world, and it sinks into an abyss from which no memory, even if we can keep the memory, and we will keep it, can save it. For 30 years we have been so entangled together that when he died I felt like a newborn pony, unable to stand up, wobbly and unsure of the world I'd been thrown into. Everything felt new. I didn't know how to pump up my tyres on the car, how to program the heating, where we'd put the spare car keys. And as I sat in his chair at his computer and tried to work out what our password for iTunes was, I slowly realised I know the grasshoppers still chanting, birds sing and bees dancing, plants perceiving what the leaves enhancing from the sun rate the intelligent one there with no gun. He was shot by a ricochet stray on a borderline planet in the Milky Way, where the oceans grow. The dolphin know from 50 below we're no place to go. So close your eyes, you'll see the sky at night. Was I here before as a woman in white? You know spiders draw, electricity thinks. Should Darwin give a credit to a sphinx? 'Cause dogs see ghosts and insects giggle. I know everything alive is soft in the middle. Oxygen, hydrogen, marry and spray me. Underneath the wet mud slugs make babies, no maybes. It's all wriggling and real. Kangaroos box and magpies steal. And just before meals the mantis prays, while trees eavesdrop on mankind's wicked ways. We know elephants cry and butterflies windsurf. They're naturally created and generated by the earth. Shining specks projects vibes through the tribes. Do you follow my flute? Try a kinkanute tide. Besides, the seas, the guides, in tune with the moon's magnetism, it makes my mood swing. Today's the day, tune in and zoom in. I feel omens of impending doom are looming. My body, my soul and my mind are separating. Is love too cheap? I'll keep my candles burning.